All right, it's time to get started on the roof. What I decided to do instead of a traditional overhang, because I'm 6 feet tall, is I'm just going to do a little cantilevered overhang. Nothing much, maybe 1 3/4 inches, 1.5 inches off of either side, and something like that, just to keep, you know, a little bit of overhang. I don't want a lot of metal sticking down either, so that'll keep everything lower, because you don't want to walk by and catch your head on the metal. So what I'm probably going to do is just take a 2x6 and make it a little bit longer all the way around. Matter of fact, I've already cut one just as a trial run, so it'll fit up there just about like that. So it'll be a separate piece. The whole roof will mount off of this. It'll just have a rafter. I don't know the pitch exactly. What I'm probably going to do is I'm just going to bring it to a point here. My DeWalt miter saw will cut 60 degrees in one direction, so more than likely I'll do 60 degrees and then whatever makes up the other angle at the peak. That's what I'm going to do there. I'm not really too worried about getting any ventilation in here. It's just a well house. So matter of fact, I want to kind of keep the heat in. If I did anything, if I put insulation here at this level, then I would put some kind of ventilation in here to keep the attic, whatever, you know, the attic part of it, the outside temperature, and then the inside temperature stays the same. Still might do that. I mean, if worse comes to worse, all I got to do is drill holes in here, and then the ridge cap on top will vent the air out that way, or the moisture out, or, you know, keep the air temperature the same. More than likely, we're not going to do that. Well, like I said, it's a well house, and I already think that this might be heavier than I wanted it to be to begin with. So, but it, you know, hopefully nothing goes wrong with the well, and we won't ever have to take it apart. But in case we do, it's not that big a deal. If I have to, I was trying to do it with just 2 people. If it takes 4, it takes 4. So I'll do this. I'll measure this one, figure out how much overhang I have. As a matter of fact, that's the wrong one. That goes that direction. But we'll figure out the overhang that we have, then do the 4 sides. I'll screw it together here, and then probably run into the house and use Fusion 360 to figure out the angles instead of doing it all. You could do it by hand out here, but I mean, you got a drawing program, use the drawing program. So it'll tell everything. I'll just tell it that I want this bottom angle here, this from here to here to be 60 degrees. And then I'll draw just 2 lines out, 3.5 inches apart to simulate a 2x4. And then I'll just mirror it on the other side, and it should tell me exactly what it's going to be. So with that, let me change the camera view. What I'm going to do is go ahead and cut all 4 of these out, and then we'll move over to the table. And I kind of like the way the video turned out, doing it speeding it up and narrating over it. So we're probably going to do that again. We'll stop filling the high points if we need to, but it takes a long, like an all-day video, and turns it into a 10 or 15, 20-minute video. I tend to rant, you know, during these times, and nobody wants to hear anybody talk most of the time. If you have something good to say, then you have something good to say, but not me. So we'll do that. I'll switch the camera view over to the big table, and we'll get started on this. All right, so what we did, we cut the 2x6s at 45-degree angles, you know, using the outside measurement, and then we just, using the outside measurement of the building plus about 1.5 inches or 1 3/4 inches for an overhang. It really doesn't matter, and it doesn't have to be anything specific. Once you get it on top of the walls, you just, you know, get it evenly spaced on both sides just to make it look right. So here we are putting it together. And I did make a mistake. I measured it wrong, and it shows up pretty quick when you are using 45s. So, you know, I figured what I did wrong, and you got to take it back apart, and it's just part of it. So that's the old saying, measure twice, cut once. This is where it comes into effect. So, honest mistake, just go back, cut another one. Oops. Grab the wrong board, cut it 1 inch too short. Not going to work, but we'll use it for something else or to make firewood. One of the two. So back to the back of the workshop. Cut me new pieces, or new piece I should say, and screw it back together. And then I'm putting them together with these number 10 4-inch GRK screws. So it'll hold very well. Plus, you know, once you have the rafters up there on top, it ties it all together. So we'll screw this off, and then we check it for square, you know, just going corner to corner. And I believe this one was, I don't know, 1/4 inch out of square, something like that. And it could be, you know, the length of the size of this and the 45-degree angles, it could be a little off, or the lumber, either way. So it's not that big a deal. It's like I said, it's a well house cover. So, but you want to make it as best you can, because you do have metal that's being manufactured somewhere else going up on top. So you need those right. So like I said, I cut my rafters. The bottom tails are at 60 degrees, and then the top worked out to be right at 30 degrees. So, and here I am. I'm laying out some inlet, or what do you call them? Rabbets or dados that I want to put in here to set the rafters into. It's my preferred method when using metal for the roofing. You just take the 2x4s and you set them into the rafters, and it just makes for a neat installation. You just don't have the space that shows above the rafters. So I like doing this way, especially when it's not that much. I did my roof rafters the same way. They were treated, and then I built I put a ogie detail on the edge of it, and it really made the rafters look really good. I also put the ogie detail on the furring strips, or the 2x4s that set into those rafters, and it looks really good. I'm not doing it on this because it's all closed in, but it's the same general idea. And all I do is I take my skill saw and I set it 1.5 inches or 1 9/16 inches deep, and just run the first one and the last one as close as I can to the lines, and then in between it doesn't matter. So then you just score lines about 1/8 of an inch apart, and you just hit it with a hammer, and they pretty much all fall out. Then you take the crowfoot of the hammer and just drag it across there to get any of the stragglers. Get you a trash can, because it does make a mess. I usually don't cut wood in the front, but like I said, it's been in the 90s and the back of the shop's not air conditioned. So this is, if you're experienced with the skill saw, this is the easiest way to remove all the little fuzzies that are inside there. You just drag it back and forth. Just be careful. It's a saw. Keep your fingers out of the parts that go spinning, and you should be fine. You're not going to catch on anything. If you don't feel good about it, just use a chisel like that, like I'm doing, and take your time and knock them all out. I've cut myself more with a chisel than I ever have with a skill saw. So, it's all how you be careful with stuff. So now you can see the 2x4s just sit right in. And then you just take your rafters, and a spin around with the camera to a new location. So you just take the rafters and you stand them up. So it's 3 on each side. I'm not using a ridge beam in this case, because it's only spanning 6 feet, so it's not necessary. You could put a collar tie in at the top if you needed to, but I still don't think it's necessary in this case. If it was spanning more, then you probably could, but in this case I think it'll be fine. So here I am. I'm just using a stapler and just setting them roughly in place, and then you just staple them together. Put your safety glasses on, of course. So this is just a quick way just to tack them in place, and then I'll come back and I'll put screws in all of them. Made quick work of this. This didn't take that long at all to build the whole roof. Less than an afternoon. So we got that done. Now I'm going to put the strips in, or no, I'm sorry, we're screwing them in. So these are, once again, are number 10 4-inch GRK screws. It's not going anywhere with these screws in place. There's no way it can move. So, and it makes it a very, very rigid structure. So now all the rafters are tied in at the bottom, and then at the top rabbet joint where the strips go, I'll install another 4-inch screw into the other side of the rafter, and it ties all that together. So now I lay the rafters in place and mark the center of the rafter. You really don't care about the ends right now, because what you'll measure the spacing at the bottom where it ties into that top plate, and then you can adjust from there. So that's going to be square. So, and that right there was the first time I've changed that battery in that 20-inch or 20-volt DeWalt since we started this project. So it's lasted very, very, very good. Very pleased with that gun. So now that all the middles are tied together, now you measure the bottom area, the spacing between the bottom, and you mark the the sides, and you'll know it's going to be dead nuts plumb when you do it that way. So in this case, it worked out perfect. So all the measurements were the same, which means your measurements at the beginning were right. So you do that, and everything falls together when you do it that way. So now we screw everything together using, again, those long screws. You know, these might have been too long. They did poke out of the bottom a little bit, but this is going to be well above 7 feet at that point in the height, so I'm not really worried about it. Probably will go in with a cutoff wheel or a grinder and just grind them off, or swap them out with some 3-inch screws. So I usually don't keep 3-inch screws. When you get to that length, you know, the 4-inch ones for me are the better ones. So I keep 2.5s now, and the 4-inch ones. But that's it. Roof structure's pretty much done there. So I want to stain it before we move it out. All right, so that's the roof structure ready to go. So hopefully it doesn't weigh a ton. I haven't tried it, but oh no. 2 people can easily carry that. So the only other thing that's going to go on here is the 2 pieces of siding on the end, which will, I should not have put these in first. It would have been much easier to put the, focus. Hello. Thank you. It would have been much, much, much easier to put the plywood on before I put these on. So now I'm going to have to use math and get those angles right. So anyway, off to that. My wife is on a wine tasting tour. I don't have the siding yet, so, and I really don't have any help to lift to put this on here to verify that everything works good, which is always a good thing. So, you know what, we may just end it right there, and then I'll bring you back. I'm not going to put the metal on. We're going to put the siding on first, which is nail the siding on. It's not that big a deal. And we're going to stain it. So I want all this stained, especially these outside under here, because you're going to see that. So we'll do that, and then we'll bring you back. See ya.